Steve Forbes there. Spike Cohen. Larry Sharpe. Here we go.
There they are.
Come on out. And of course, I also invited Adam Smith to join us.
Yes.
Happy birthday to our favorite
Have a
Scotsman.
seat, folks. Welcome. So we have what brings this group together. Oh, really, look at this. Look at this. They are so fast. So we'll have a little setup for Mr. Adam Smith and his book, The Wealth of Nations. We're doing that because it's the 300th anniversary of Adam Smith's birth. Oh, wow. So let's give a nice applause to Mr. Smith. Thank you for him coming.
And he still votes Democrat in New York every year.
I'm sure several vote early, right? Or that's Chicago.
Yes, right, yes.
Early and frequently. So what I'd like to do, what we have put together here is a panel of ambassadors to FreedomFest. These four individuals, plus John Mackey, who's also the former CEO of Whole Foods Market. He retired last year. He's also an ambassador to FreedomFest. There's really five of us, but four of us are here. And we decided to expand our ambassadorship of FreedomFest, and I think we have a pretty good eclectic group. It's really pretty good. We just need a Latino, and then we will be fully diversified, right, Kennedy?
Well, I know John Leguizamo, so I think I'm pretty close. And maybe the next Freedom Fest ambassador is sitting among us right now, Mark.
Yes.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. Maybe the next president of the United States. Who knows?
Maybe.
I would like to, first of all, I'm going to show a video, by the way, shortly. We're going to show a video of our theme for next year, which I'd like to discuss. But I'd like to just quickly go through your latest project, what you are doing right now, just a way of kind of introducing yourselves, because there has been some change among our ambassadors. So Larry Sharpe, what are you doing right now? Give us a short summary of what you're doing.
Absolutely. Some of you may know I ran for governor last year in New York State. And boy, is it tough to run as a libertarian or as a third party in many states now. And the laws and rules are devastating us. They're beating everybody up. So I am going out of my way next year to get ballot access for the Libertarian Party in New York State so that we can have, yes, you should clap for that. Yes,
Great.
you should. So people say, Larry, why aren't you running for something? And I said, I just did. Why do you want to punish me again? Instead, I'm going to focus my time on getting ballot access in New York State so that we can have an actual third party that has 50 state ballot access next year, and actually put pressure on the two major parties too, and be able to move our country back towards liberty. And you say, Larry, why are you doing it in New York? Because if we can do it in New York, we can do it anywhere. Anywhere. That's why.
All right. Spike, what about you? What are you doing these days?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm working on two problems that we have in the liberty movement. Number one, there are people that are suffering under the status quo right now, every single day, that are being harmed. And number two, a lot of people might think our ideas sound good, but they're never going to join us unless they can see that it actually works in practice. And so I started an organization called You Are the Power that addresses both of those. We find people that are being abused by their local governments. We help them and their local communities to organize for justice for them. And we grow a movement of people fighting for freedom, starting in their communities and going out across the country. And if you want to join us, we'd love to have you join us. The website is youarethepower.net.
Wow, fantastic, Spike. That's excellent. So, Kennedy, what are you doing? Are you still with Fox News?
I'm still with Fox News, yes. I have a 5-day-a-week podcast, which is one of the very top podcasts at Fox News. You can go to Fox News Radio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get you podcasts, called Kennedy Saves the World. I am single-handedly saving Fox News, so thank you very much for that in advance.
And
yeah.
they need
and then
it
you're like,
after
oh, how
what's
do you do
been
it? I'm
happening.
like, I'm everywhere. I'm like nitrogen. You don't even know I'm there, and I'm with you. And I'm also very interested in media training because I have been a broadcaster for over 30 years now. So one of the greatest joys I have at work is working with people who have just gotten a Fox and helping them with mechanics, because you know, in our society, we get so obsessed with like building our brand and what do people think of me. and instead of like, what can I do better? And mechanics aren't just for broadcasters, it's for everyone, and really going back to the basics and working on your presentation and the nuts and bolts. And so I like working with younger people and teaching them how to read teleprompter and form questions and all that.
Wow. So are we
Yay.
are we young people for you? I don't know.
Yeah, I would work with anyone. I work with all sorts of people in the building.
Young people of any age.
All right.
That's right.
Okay. So Mr. Forbes, tell us about your podcast program or whatever in your new education program. There's several things you're doing.
Well, that's right. It's called Achievement. It comes through the isit.org, part of the Free to Choose Foundation. And what it's aimed at is young people, kids, and teachers, educators, as well as the rest of us. What it is 3-minute biographies of people who made the world that we live in today. And so we have people like, we're here in Memphis, Tennessee. We have a 3-minute one coming up on Paul and on the good Lord.
Is it the one on Fred?
Well, Fred Smith is obviously one.
Yeah.
And but we have Annie Malone, who created the first African-American millionaire in this country. She, born of slaves, and created an empire of cosmetics. At the height, even women weren't allowed to vote. She had 75,000 agents around this country and the world. So the free market lesson there is that she not only did well for herself, for the 75,000 agents, but also people who got hair products that actually worked. We have Clarence Saunders, I mentioned earlier, here in Memphis, Tennessee. He invented the modern supermarket. When you bought something 120 years ago, you went to a store, the clerk, all the products were behind the counter. All the groceries were behind the counter. The clerk had to write down what you wanted. The clerk then ambled over and got the products. You might negotiate on the price. Very laborious project. What he did is he invented the modern supermarket. He invented a store where we had a turnstile. You'd go in, all the items were on the shelf, marked, the prices were on the shelf, and you picked what you wanted and put it in the basket, go to the cashier and go out. It was called Piggly Wiggly.
Yes.
He wanted a name that no one would forget. And the free market lesson there is not only convenience, not only transparency, but also trust.
Yes.
He trusted that you would take something off the shelf, put it in the basket, and pay when you left the store. Like with a restaurant, the restaurateurs assume that you'll pay even though you've eaten the meal.
Right.
And so these stories, like Annie Malone, Clarence Saunders, and others, 3-minute video. You can find it on izzit.org/Forbes, izzit.org/Forbes. And what we're finding is kids love this. They learn free markets not by preaching, saying free markets are great, but by the example of stories, parables, lessons from people doing real things, overcoming real obstacles in the real world. We hope you take a look at it, but that's one of the projects I'm doing. I still have a day job at Forbes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve, for that update.
I wonder who invented organized theft. Because I don't like that one. Because now they put everything behind plexiglass.
Well, that shows how far we've regressed from Clarence Saunders' faith and trust.
Exactly right.
When you don't enforce the law, guess what happens?
So my latest project is to work with my son Tim on he's a movie maker out in Utah. We have a 3-minute video about next year's theme, which I think you'll find rather provocative. So if we can roll that, it's another 3-minute video.
With prices skyrocketing on just about every consumer good, from groceries to gas, Americans are desperate for relief.
It was unprovoked, but this is what Russian President Vladimir Putin unleashed on Ukraine as the sun came up this morning.
Heightened tensions across the Taiwan Strait. Beijing says the drills simulated precision attacks against targets on the island.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
How dare you! You have stolen my dreams.
There's so many of these catastrophic predictions in climate conversation. And it'll be you and a few others who pull it out 10 years later and say, what happened to that?
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is one of 350 industry leaders to issue an even more dire warning, saying that if AI is left unchecked, it poses a, quote, risk of extinction.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
She is the first transgender athlete to be crowned